The ship was already tearing the sky apart when I dropped my toolbox and ran toward the square instead of away from it. Everyone else was running the other direction. Cars were pressed against curbs, phones held up and hands shaking, feet moving fast enough to trip over each other. But I kept moving forward, because on days like this, the only thing worse than danger is standing still. My name is Daniel Ashford, and I fix broken things for a living, though I never expected the thing I would end up fixing might be something like a war. The vessel above us was silver and smooth, without a single seam visible from where I stood, and yet it moved like it weighed nothing at all. It lowered itself into the open field near the old stadium, crushing nothing, disturbing nothing, as if the ground had simply agreed to hold it. Sirens screamed somewhere behind me. Someone shouted for everyone to get back. I kept walking. A hatch opened without sound. Light spilled out, pale gold, almost gentle, nothing like the harsh beams I expected from something so massive. Two figures stepped down a ramp that had not been there a second before, and the crowd around me finally understood that this was not an attack. It was something else, something worse, in its own way, because at least an attack you understand. The two women who stepped out did not look like monsters. They looked almost human, except for skin that shimmered faintly, like light passing through water, and eyes that held a color I could not name because it did not exist on Earth. One of them raised a hand, and a voice came out of the air itself, not from her mouth, translated and smooth. "We are not here to harm you. We are here to ask for one thing. We need a partner, someone willing to stand with us, to be bonded to us, for reasons we will explain once trust is given. We cannot force this. It must be chosen freely." Nobody moved. Thousands of people stood frozen, phones still recording, voices dropping to whispers, but no one stepped forward. I understood the fear. This was new, unknown, and terrifying in the way anything unknown becomes terrifying when you cannot see the shape of the danger. But fear has never been a good enough reason for me to stay still. I raised my hand. The two women turned toward me at the exact same moment, and for a heartbeat, the entire square went silent, like the whole world was holding its breath along with me. The taller of the two, with hair like woven silver thread, tilted her head slightly, studying me as if I were the strange one. Her voice, when it reached me through that same invisible translation, felt closer than before, quieter, meant only for me. "You would agree, without knowing what this means?" I stepped closer instead of answering right away, because a promise deserves more than a shout across a field. When I reached the base of the ramp, I looked up at both of them, and I said the only thing that felt true in that moment. "You already told us you mean no harm. Everyone else is too scared to believe you. I figure someone should." The second woman, shorter, with eyes like storm clouds caught mid-lightning, exchanged a glance with her companion. Something passed between them, something unspoken and heavy, like relief mixed with disbelief. "No one has ever answered this fast," she said. "On other worlds, this takes seasons. Sometimes it never happens at all." I did not know what to say to that, so I said nothing, and I let the silence sit there until the taller one spoke again. "My name is Vera. This is Ilessa. If you choose to continue, you must come aboard, and you must understand there is no simple way back to the life you had this morning. But if our purpose fails, more than one world suffers, including yours." Something cold moved through my chest at that, not fear exactly, more like the weight of understanding that this moment mattered more than I had guessed. I thought about my apartment, my half-finished projects, the ordinary shape of my life before that ship arrived, and none of it felt heavier than the choice standing in front of me. "I am still in," I said. They led me up the ramp, and the moment I crossed into the ship, the noise of the crowd behind me disappeared entirely, swallowed by walls that hummed faintly with a sound I felt more than heard. The interior looked nothing like the cold metal corridors from every movie I had ever seen. It looked alive, curved and warm, lit by soft patterns that shifted like slow-moving water across the walls. Vera guided me to a wide chamber, where a strange chair, if you could call it that, waited in the center, surrounded by threads of light suspended in the air, like glowing spider silk. "This is the bonding trial," Ilessa explained. It will show us if your mind and body can hold the connection required. It is not painful in the way you fear, but it will test you. Test me how? I asked. It will show your true self, Vera said. Fear, courage, weakness, strength, all of it. There is no hiding inside the trial. I sat down anyway. If they wanted to see who I really was, I figured that was fair, since I had walked in here without knowing anything about them either. The threads of light lowered around me, wrapping gently instead of binding, and the moment they touched my skin, the chamber vanished. I stood suddenly in a memory that was not quite mine, a burning building, smoke thick enough to choke on, a child crying somewhere inside. I did not question it. I ran toward the sound, the way I always run toward the sound, because standing still while someone needs help has never been something I could manage. The scene shifted again, faster this time, dropping me into freezing water, then into darkness with something unseen moving close, then into a silence so complete it felt like drowning without water at all. Each time, panic tried to grab hold of me, and each time, I pushed through it, because panic has never solved anything, not once, not ever. When the light finally released me, I was breathing hard, sweat on my forehead, but steady on my feet. Vera and Alessa stood watching, and for the first time since they had stepped off that ramp, both of them looked something close to amazed. In every trial we have run, on every species we approached, hesitation always shows itself, Alessa said quietly. You did not hesitate once. I did not know that was unusual, I admitted. It is more than unusual, Vera said. It may be exactly what we need. They finally explained everything then, standing in that glowing chamber while the ship hummed steadily around us. Their people were dying, slowly, their bodies losing the ability to hold their own life energy stable, without an outside anchor, a partner whose mind could stabilize theirs through the bond. It was not a weapon, not a trick, not a trap. It was survival, plain and simple, and they had been searching for a species compatible enough to survive the bonding process without being destroyed by it. Every attempt before mine had failed, Alessa said. Some volunteers broke under the trial. Others simply refused once they understood the risk. You are the first to complete it without fracture. I sat with that for a moment, letting the weight of it settle instead of rushing to respond. Then I looked at both of them and asked the only question that mattered. If this bond forms, what happens to me? You remain yourself, Vera answered, but you will carry a piece of us within you, and we will carry a piece of you within us. It cannot be undone once complete. I thought about my life outside that ship, the ordinary shape of my days, and I realized that ordinary had never been something I clung to very tightly. I had spent my whole life running toward broken things, because someone had to, and this felt like the biggest broken thing I would ever be asked to fix. Do it, I said. The bonding did not feel like pain the way I expected. It felt like pressure, deep and total, like the entire ship exhaled through my chest at once. Light gathered around Vera and Alessa, threading outward and connecting to threads gathering around me, until the three of us stood inside a single pulse of light that beat like a heartbeat that did not belong to any one of us alone. When it finished, the chamber dimmed, and both women staggered slightly before catching themselves. Color returned to Vera's skin in a way I had not noticed missing until it came back. Alessa exhaled like she had been holding her breath for years. It worked, she whispered. I felt it too. Something new settled inside my chest, calm and steady, not overwhelming, just present, like a second heartbeat quietly keeping time beside my own. Outside, the world was still afraid, still uncertain, still watching that ship with suspicion through news cameras and government channels. But inside that chamber, something had shifted permanently, not just for me, but for every species that would eventually learn what happened here. Vera looked at me with something that was not quite a smile, but close enough. You did not know us. You did not know what this would cost, and still, you stepped forward before anyone else even considered it. I shrugged, because it did not feel like the moment for speeches. Somebody has to be first, I said. Might as well be someone who runs toward things instead of away from them. Alessa laughed then, quiet and surprised, like she had not expected sound like that to escape her after everything her people had survived. Humanity may be stranger than we expected, she said. Maybe, I answered, but at least we show up. The ship's hum shifted around us, steady now, no longer straining, no longer fighting whatever failure had been creeping through its systems, and through the women standing beside me. Outside, the sky was still bright with afternoon light, ordinary in every way except for the massive vessel sitting quietly in the field, and the one man inside it who had just changed the shape of two worlds by simply refusing to stay silent when everyone else did.